do you find your thesis statement? That's the topic I'm addressing today in The Right Question. I'm Daphne Gray Grant, the publication coach, still in pandemic mode. I have a question from Marie Calibre, a grad student based in San Diego, California. Here's what she's asked by email. With academic writing, how do you home in on the premise of your work? I'm writing a master's thesis, and I'm having a hard time identifying my thesis statement. Do you have any suggestions for me? Thanks for your question, Marie. For viewers who aren't familiar with academic practices, let me begin by giving a definition. A thesis statement is a sentence or short paragraph summarizing the main point of your thesis or research paper. Thesis is a Greek word meaning proposition. So in fact, a thesis statement is just the main point you want to make. An effective thesis statement needs to do three main things. 1, it must be very specific and debatable. 2, it must be appropriate to the type of paper you're writing. 3, it must appear within the first section that you're writing so that readers are informed right away what your topic is. Here, for example, is a weak thesis statement. Shakespeare was the leading playwright for the last 500 years. Notice that the statement is quite non-specific and, for many people, would hardly be debatable. In fact, if you wanted a better thesis statement, you might propose something like, Edward Albee, see show notes, is the leading playwright of the last 500 years. At least that's a surprising argument. Anyway, before constructing your thesis statement, do some significant research. Read some good overview literature in your subject area so that you're really familiar with it. Once you have a basic understanding of the broad research area, I suggest you start mind mapping for a thesis statement. I've written lots of blog posts on mind mapping and done a number of videos as well. Check the show notes below for the links to those. But let me emphasize one point about mind mapping that should make a huge difference to you. Don't just put your subject in the center of the page. Put a question. The act of writing a question will force you to be much more specific, and this will help you do a better job of identifying your thesis statement. Also understand that it's perfectly fine to ask yourself meta questions like, what would be a good thesis statement for this paper I'm writing? Keep in mind that your thesis statement may change several times as you're working on the paper. This is normal and expected because the more you work with your topic, the more familiar you'll become with the issues involved. You might even find that you want to argue in the totally opposite direction. And that's perfectly okay as well. Writing a paper is a creative process and not one that always proceeds in predictable ways. Finding a good thesis statement is probably the most important and challenging part of writing any paper. But when you get a good one, it will make the job of writing that paper so much easier. Finally, let me wrap up with a quote from the American Chinese poet Jenny Zhang. Sometimes I worry that people who read my fiction think that I'm making some kind of thesis statement. Marie, while poets don't have to worry excessively about thesis statements, academic writers do. Take the time to find one that's going to work for you. It's well worth the effort. If you'd like to learn more about how to make your writing a happier and more rewarding process, check out my latest book, Your Happy First Draft. It's not available in bookstores or on Amazon. The only place you can get it is my website. Link below and in the show notes.